Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Fat Feminist Witch podcast, where I talk about fat acceptance, feminism, and witchcraft, how they relate, how they conflict, and what it's like to be and do all three of those things at the same time. It's been a very interesting year so far. February just started, but I feel like I've been in 2016 for months. Maybe it's because I did so much in January. I will admit that I overdid it a little bit. In fact, I overdid it so bad that last week when I went to see a psychic at the Psychic Expo that came through Windsor, where I live, the psychic kind of scolded me a little bit for not having enough fun. And she was right. She was totally right. I don't really have a lot of fun. In my spare time, I like to do absolutely nothing. And even while I'm doing nothing, I'm thinking about all the work that I have to do. So, I'm not very good at that. So I'm going to be having a little bit more fun. And maybe the time will make a little bit more sense. It won't feel like I've accomplished 3 months worth of stuff in 1 month. So it is February. The pagan festival of Imbolc just passed, and this was the time where you plant seeds for new things and you get excited for spring. And I gathered together with a couple of friends the other night, and we were going around and talking about what kind of new things we want to accomplish and what kind of things we want help accomplishing in the new year. And I honestly said I wanted to do nothing. I wanted help doing nothing. I don't want to plant any seeds. I've planted tons and tons of seeds in January, and I don't want to do anything else. And of course, I've already broken that pact, and I've kind of agreed to do something new. But you'll learn more about that later as it unfolds. So today is going to be kind of a laid back podcast episode. My last one was very, very well researched, very in depth, and it went on forever. So today I'm just going to chill out a little bit. The first thing I want to talk about is that I've done another book review. So it's my second book review of Shadows. And today I did a fun fiction book that I read recently. So the book is called Legacy of Magick by Ellen Dugan. It's the first in a series of so far 3. I don't know if she's going to keep going. And Ellen Dugan is a very popular nonfiction pagan writer. She's very popular, and I personally love Ellen Dugan. I love her books, and every single one that I've read is absolutely fantastic. The 2 that I really like the best is Herb Magic for Beginners, which is part of Llewellyn's really good For Beginners series, and Book of Witchery. Book of Witchery is technically like a Book of Shadows situation, but it's laid out by day or by event, and it's just absolutely fantastic. I actually keep it on my phone in my e-reader app so that I can reference it all the time. So I'm a big Ellen Dugan fan. I'm a fan of her nonfiction. So when I saw on her Facebook page that she had written this fiction series, I was so excited. I jumped right on that. And I'm a little late to the game because number 3 has just come out, but that's okay. So this review is just going to be for the first book, called Legacy of Magick, although the series is also called Legacy of Magick. So Legacy of Magick is a super fun, romantic, supernatural, witchy book. It's witchy fiction, and I love witchy fiction, and I highly recommend this book to people who like witchy fiction, who like supernatural romance novels, but especially to other real-life witches who are interested in a fiction book about witchcraft written by a real witch. The magical stuff you read in this book is so realistic, even though it's very clearly fictional. It's definitely fiction, but Ellen Dugan takes her real-life witchcraft and just kind of weaves it all the way through that book. Every time magic comes up in the book, it's really, really amazing. And she does the same thing with her settings, her characters. It's just, you really feel like you're there, and you really feel like you know these characters. You can almost picture them standing right in front of you. I can equate a lot of these characters and their personalities with people I've met before. So I love that. I was really, really transported into this book. And I haven't been transported that deeply into a book since I read Harry Potter, and that is saying a lot because I am a fanatic. So I really liked that part of the book. I liked how lifelike it was and how easy it was for me to get very wrapped up in the story. That being said, this is a cheesy romance book. It's so cheesy. I love cheesy. I love cheesy books. And though I don't tend to admit out loud how much I love cheesy supernatural romance books, I've read a ton of them. And I read them all the time. So The cheese is through the roof. If you are not interested in a super cheesy book, I would maybe skip this one, though I still think it's a very entertaining book. So it's a little bit cheesy, and there's not a lot of new stuff in here. So you've got like a Romeo and Juliet situation happening. You have warring families in town, one of which is, super rich and they have manor homes. There's references to witches of Salem and like direct lineage of people in Salem. There is a really sassy cat with a personality on its own, though I'm not going to complain about sassy cats ever. I feel like more books need a sassy cat. And you even have like a stereotypical teenage goth girl with telekinetic powers. She's like those Emily the Strange. She's Emily the Strange. She's that girl. Bit of a stereotype. And of course there is a super hot, super rich guy who falls in love with our heroine who, although a little bit quirky and incredibly intelligent, is described slightly as plain. Nothing new there, but Ellen's spins are very good. And like I said, because she is a real witch and she has been a real witch for a really long time, the depth of the history and the magical practice and the rules of magic and any spells that she describes are really, really beautiful. She does it really well there. And even though you have all these stereotypes and this cheesy stuff, it means that the book is really easy to follow. And you fall in love with things as you go. So as cheesy as this book was, as soon as I finished it, I went back into my Kindle, my Amazon Kindle there, and I found the second book right away and I started reading. I think I finished them both in one day because I was so excited. So no matter how cheesy this book is, I absolutely recommend it. Because of the level of cheese, I've given it a rating of 3 crystal balls out of 5, though, just because I don't know if other people like cheesy stuff as much as I do. I tend to think that cheesy stuff is the best stuff, whether it's books or movies or clothes or what have you. And most of my friends who have looked into my wardrobe pretty in depth can verify this for you. But I don't know if everyone else really likes that, and I don't know even if other witches would find the cliches. I don't know if I would say offensive. I feel like that's too far, but somewhere in there, somewhere in that realm. So Legacy of Magick, I definitely recommend. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun fiction book with just a slight amount of reality in there. And there is a really cute romance. Once you get into book 2, that romance gets a bit sexy, so I feel like sticking it out is worth it. It was pretty good. It was really good. I can't wait to review that second book because I loved the second book. There was some sexy stuff in there. Super good time. So Ellen Dugan, one of my favorite authors, and her sassiness, her humor, her full personality just comes right through. Most of the characters in the book are female, and none of these women take shit. Not a single one of these women takes any shit at all. They are so tough, and they are so in control of their personal powers. Everybody's got a little extra power. There's a couple teenagers in the book, and even they are really, really in control of themselves, their magic, their feelings, even everything they do. And that makes it a really good book, I think, for teens. And for adults, it gives you a certain level of guilt about being a shitty mess of a teenager, which I think is good for everybody. It's good. She also describes all these really ancient, like Book of Shadows books, like really ancient, that have been around for hundreds of years and, run in the family. And the witchy book nerd in me just ate it up. So if you really want a fun read, Legacy of Magick, book number 1 by Ellen Dugan. You can get it on Amazon. And if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, which I tried out for the first time, first 30 days, you can download this one and the second one both through Kindle Unlimited. So check it out. Definitely check it out. So that fulfills our witch quota for today. And not that I hate talking about witchy stuff, but I'm actually going to talk about cannabis again. And I'm not going to talk about cannabis in relation to witchcraft as I did in my Weed, Women, and Witches podcast, though that has been my most popular podcast to date. So cannabis may pop up a few other times. What I'm going to talk about is cannabis and the fight for legalizing cannabis, and how I'm so excited to say that it has finally made it to my hometown of Windsor. So every generation has something that they kind of fight for. They all have these political battles. And our generation has a couple of things, but I feel like now that marriage equality has existed in Canada for a decade. It's kind of old news here. It's great, but it's a little bit of old news. And now it's been mostly achieved in the States. I feel like the next largest political fight we have going on for my generation anyway is the fight for legalizing cannabis. And this isn't a fight for everybody. A lot of people don't want cannabis legalized, or they just don't care if it becomes legalized or not. But either way, everyone's kind of paying attention. Even if they say they don't care, they're still paying attention, which I find is really interesting with cannabis. And it's something that I've been watching for a really long time, just from the sidelines, right? And I'm always excited when something huge happens, like a big thing happens, and I can't believe that I'm fortunate enough to live in a time where I can see these brand new legal changes taking place. I'm a geek for stuff like that, and I love it. So, like I said, no matter what you feel about cannabis being legalized, you're paying attention. And in Windsor for a long time, there wasn't a political aspect to cannabis. I've been around people who use cannabis medicinally or recreationally, though I wasn't always aware that they were, for my whole life. Just my whole life. And throughout my life, my views on cannabis and legalization has changed over and over and over. But no matter what I felt about it, I always kind of knew what was going on. Always knew what was going on. In 2011, I lived in Vancouver, and for those who have been living under a rock, Vancouver, British Columbia, here in Canada, is our cannabis hub. That is our hub for cannabis, and it has been almost forever. So, Vancouver, also known as Vansterdam, is our hub for weed, legal and not legal, and actually one of Canada's largest marijuana activists, Mark Emery, is from Vancouver. Operates out of Vancouver. His corporation operates out of Vancouver. I visited the store that he and his wife and his corporation all own and manage together, and I was really interested in how big of a deal weed was in Vancouver, because it was so different. Almost everybody in Windsor that I've ever met has at least tried it, and many people actively use it, but not like people do in Vancouver. Not only does everyone in Vancouver, just every single person in Vancouver, I'd be sitting at a bus stop and people are smoking pot and they're offering it to people, and which blew my mind the entire time I was there. I never got used to that. But it's not just that, it's that people are living off of it. People are making a living. People are, and respected people. You have your doctors and your scientists and stuff. Vancouver's full of stuff like that. You have dispensaries. You have organizations like Cannabis Culture and Mark Emery who make it their life. And you have rallies and real activism there. I checked out 420 on April 20th. It's kind of a stoner holiday, I guess. And I checked this out in Vancouver because I wanted to see what was going on. First of all, the SkyTrains were packed. Getting to downtown was a really big deal. And when I got there were thousands of people. And while you did have, Bob Marley playing super loud, and you had a bunch of white people with dreads playing hacky sack, and, lots of tie-dye everywhere. Not saying any of that's bad. I'm just saying you have it. And a lot of people weren't paying attention to what was really going on. They just kind of wanted to get high. You also have these well-spoken and intelligent, educated activists who are standing up on a stage, on a podium, and they are talking to people about prohibition and about their beliefs about cannabis and how they use cannabis, and sharing stories. And whether people were there for that or not, whether they were listening to that or not, that was the reason everyone was there. Even the people that just went there to get high, that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for all of these activists. And the overall message that these activists were talking about was they feel they have a right to their body and their own health, and to decide what makes them healthy and what they can use to live their best life. And this was kind of the moment that it clicked, and I realized I fully believe in legalization, because I firmly believe that. I believe people should be in charge of their bodies and their health and what they do, and they don't deserve to be judged for that. I mean, as long as you're an adult. We're adults. You're an adult. It's up to you now to make these decisions, and you should be the one that gets to make them. I don't feel like there's a difference between believing that women have a right to safe and accessible health care in the realm of like contraception and abortion, and people having the right to safe and accessible health care in the form of cannabis, because cannabis is proven to have tons of health benefits, and a lot of people do really only use it for health. Even if they don't, they still have a right to do that. I mean, you can buy vitamins. Why can't you buy cannabis? It's got vitamins in it. So it's just, I don't feel like there's a difference between believing that certain groups have a right to health care and that all people have the right to health care in terms of cannabis. There's no difference to me. When I came home, there's no activism here. Everybody smokes it, but no one's an activist. And about 3 years ago, the Windsor Marijuana March started. And this is fairly small, especially compared to some place like Vancouver. But there are lots of people that come out for it, lots of people that keep their eye out for it, that plan for it, lots of people who make money there, not selling drugs, but selling, paraphernalia or art or what have you. And I found that to be really exciting. And I still haven't been. I still haven't been because I am slightly nervous about being photographed or something at a place like that. So, I mean, maybe not so much now. I'm talking about it, all over the internet. So I'm maybe not so afraid of it now. Hopefully this year I can make it out to the marijuana march. I'd really like that. But I've kept an eye on it, and I've been slightly shocked that it was happening, especially because it's the third year. Last year was the third year, and I'm very proud that that is happening in my city. Now this year, just last month, a place opened up downtown called Higher Limits. And Higher Limits touts itself as being a vapor lounge. It's a place where you can go to consume cannabis openly with other people in like a bar type setting, but where there's no booze. And that blew my mind. Now, I'm not shocked to learn that the people who organize the marijuana march are the people who run Higher Limits. Not shocked at all. And actually, I went into they have a store near the university called Endless Heights, and I walked in there one day when I was in the neighborhood donating blood, which you should all do. Even if you ingest marijuana regularly, you can donate blood. Check the blood donation website for proof of that. So I popped into Endless Heights and I wanted to ask how this worked. And the girl behind the counter was really, really cool. She explained everything to me. She talked about the legality, and she explained that you have to bring in your own cannabis and you are smoking at your own risk. If you aren't a registered medical user, anytime you ingest cannabis, it is at your own risk. And that's no different here. But the thing is that it's against the law for the owners of the store to require to see your private medical information. So they can't ask if you're a medical user or not. They just have to assume that you are. And my next question was, okay, but what if I'm not? What if I go there, I'm not a registered medical user, I use cannabis, the police show up, and I get busted? What about the people who own the place? Because I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I'm not an asshole. I don't want something bad to happen to these people who are doing something so big and monumental in Windsor. And she said, nope, they will not be in any trouble whatsoever. They are apparently medical users, so everything's good, but, you're going to get in trouble. That's okay with me. Again, you're an adult. And you are taking your health, your business, and your legal situation into your own hands there. And all this kind of blew my mind. It's a little bit of a gray area, but that's okay. Because it has to be a gray area for now. And it's normalized if you don't have these people that are pushing this gray area a little bit. And I probably wouldn't have made an entire podcast about this if I hadn't seen just the most wonderful thing today. Higher Limits on Facebook posted that they have appeared today in High Times magazine. And I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. Good for them. High Times is, the publication for people who ingest or are involved in cannabis, whether it's reform or recreational use or art or whatever. It's High Times. This is a huge deal. And then a few hours later, the Windsor Star, our local newspaper, wrote an article about the article High Times had written about Windsor's Higher Limits. And this is when I broke down and started laughing and cheering a little bit, I got this wave of hometown pride. So the fact that our Vapour Lounge has been featured in High Times magazine was so special and so important to Windsor that the Windsor Star, which is a fairly conservative and sometimes icky, but not always, publication, felt the need to commemorate this. And I was so excited. And the thing that they're talking about in the High Times article is that although smoking marijuana in this Vapour Lounge is legal, having ashtrays in the lounge is not legal. So they're trying to find a way to work that out. And I think that's a hilarious problem. Not that it's not serious, but it's pretty funny. Let's be real. But I couldn't get over seeing this pop up 2 times today in my life. And I'm very happy for the people at Higher Limits. And not only am I happy for the people at Higher Limits, but I'm so happy for everyone here in Windsor. Because congratulations, Windsor, we are officially on the Canadian cannabis radar. Maybe we're not as big as Vancouver, but we are making definite strides not only towards legalization, but towards a more widespread view of activism in Windsor. Activism in Windsor, it's rough. It's kind of like pulling teeth to get people to come out to stuff or to even just care about stuff. And we have causes in Windsor that matter a lot to a lot of people. We have environmental causes that people are very actively working towards changing and protesting right now. We have a rally this Saturday actually to protest those icky Return of Kings people, those gross pro-rape pieces of garbage that I don't really want to give a lot of airtime to. So we have a rally for that. We do have some activism in Windsor, but we don't have as much activism as I personally think we should have or that I would like to see. So I'm very excited that this place that is making such a stir in the cannabis industry is here in Windsor and is providing a platform for activism to kind of sneak its way into Windsor. And I'm really hoping that we see more stuff now. I'm really hoping that the one medical cannabis clinic that we have stops being the one, that it's not alone, that we get things like dispensaries. We already have really great head shops and stuff with really knowledgeable staff who are super, super cool. Endless Heights is one of them. The one downtown that I visit the most is Pete's Pipes. It's been there forever. So we've got some stuff, and now we are official. We are a Canadian cannabis destination, and I'm very excited about it. So if you want to hear a little bit more about my thoughts and feelings about cannabis, you can check out my Weed, Women, and Witches podcast episode or the blog post. I wrote a blog post today about both my book review and about this High Times situation, which I still just think is super fun. So you can check those out on there. Like I said, this is kind of a casual situation. I have been very busy. Not only did I get scolded for not having enough fun and for working a little too much, I've been teaching classes. So I teach classes most Fridays at Mystical May Moon in South Walkerville. I actually have one tomorrow about daily magical correspondences. So if you're in Windsor, you should definitely check that out. Last week's class on the Celtic deities, Celtic pantheon, was pretty great. And we had a lot of really cool people come out for that. And I've been working with a local store, again, on the West End, out in Old Sandwich Town, called the Curiosity Shop. And I'm actually becoming a part owner of the store. I've made a deal with the wonderful people who own that place. So I'm going to be out there a little bit more and hopefully selling some stuff at that store. So like I said, I've been very busy. I feel like maybe you can see now why I was looking for a little help slowing down. I also read 11 books in the month of January, which is awesome. And I can't wait to read 11 more this month. You guys are going to get so many more book reviews. So many more, because I really do like doing those. So thank you for coming out to the Fat Feminist Witch podcast. I know it's a little bit short, but that's okay because last time's was insanely long. It all works out that way. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. And I will have a whole new topic for you that will probably be way too much work for me to handle, and it will be very well researched and really drawn out. So check out the blog at thefatfeministwitch.wordpress.com. Find me on Facebook, it's The Fat Feminist Witch. Twitter, it's Fat Feminist Witch. And please send me any messages if you ever want to hear about a certain topic, you want to hear my opinion, or you want me to go into depth and research it like crazy, or you're looking for book recommendations. Please message me on any of those platforms and follow me there. And I love taking your messages. So thanks for coming to the Fat Feminist Witch podcast. Have a really good weekend, everybody. And if you are in Windsor, please check out Higher Limits. And if you are a reader, check out Legacy of Magick by Ellen Dugan. Good night.